Welcome back. We've got more massive events, this time a 1.5k in Atlanta, in America again. All the events are being hosted in America right now. There's just kind of more competitive scene there, a lot more money in it. But yeah, we're seeing some really surprising results. Let's just get straight into it. I'm unsure on how many rounds it was, but I'm pretty certain it was 54 players, and it was at Charlie's Collectible Show. Yeah, I'm not sure how many rounds. If I do find out, I will pin it in a comment, and I'll put it in the description too. Let's just get straight into it. We've got some really fun decks today. So first place, this time we do see actual placings rather than splitting the share, which we see quite a lot. First place, we've got Sapphire Amethyst. This is a deck that I've heard a lot of people comment that they really want to see. I haven't really seen much of it myself, so I'm kind of unsure how the deck wants to look, but this list here looks pretty good. Basically, the plan is you want to ramp up. Sapphire always wants to ramp. But you can do it really safely with Amethyst because you have card draw, you've got Rafiki, which is really strong, you've got Broom cycles to do, you can find time to play those Detective Mickeys. We see no Grammar, no One Jump Ahead, so this is more of like a mid-rangey kind of like ramp style, but the Mickey is there for the ramp, which will come up a lot of the time. You got lots of card draw. Obviously, we're playing Amethyst, you can have a ton of card draw. Play 4 Queens, which is a lot, only 1 Magic Mirror, which is totally fine, 4 Maleficents, 4 Friends, play 4 Isolers as well, so a lot of card draw. We've got Mickey Brooms as well, which is really solid. Really good list. Basically, I think the plan is literally just ramp up, play Ursula and Hades, and let it go. It's kind of like budget Dragonfire Maleficents, but they're cheaper, and the Let It Go is inkable, and you can sing it. So yeah, lots of good units in this one as well. We see 2 of the Jafars, which is really solid. 2 Scars, which I really like. Every time I play Sapphire, I always like to have Scar in there. And then again, we're seeing this free questing 5-cost Sapphire Maleficent. Is this card way better than we thought? It's seeing a lot of traction right now in a lot of these like huge events. It is doing insanely well. You have to think Cusco with a 2/4 stat line, questing for free, uninkable. We saw that and we thought this card is fantastic. This card is inkable. Oh, it doesn't have to trade, it doesn't have ward, but questing for free is really good, especially in this kind of like deck where you want to kind of have this like mid-range game plan of making a really good board, and then just dropping this. It becomes really difficult to kind of like decide what to remove, and then you can probably use a Scar or Robin Hood the next turn, and then pull up like Hades to remove those big threats. You can just buy a lot of time with these cards. So I'm a really big fan of this list as well. I've got a lot of deck guides to catch up on. So subscribe for those. There'll be there'll be a lots coming. Basically, we have loads to cover. So this was the first place list. Really like it. Sapphire again popping up. One that we've not really seen represented. I think it was the same with Amber. We didn't see much Amber, and then all of a sudden Amber Steel came out and kind of took over the meta from there. So maybe this is Sapphire's time to shine. Second place, we see Ruby Amethyst, the classic. This is a standard 60 card list. It's very heavy on Queen. We see 2 Shield, 2 Magic Mirror, and 1 Pocket Watch. Always like to look at the item counts for these lists because it always kind of changes. We're seeing 2 Elsa and 0 Ursula, which makes me think this is more of a tempo kind of style Ruby Amethyst. We're seeing the Aladdins obviously, but yeah, I think Ruby Amethyst kind of struggled a little bit with aggro decks, and now that we're seeing you can kind of just play like the Shift Aladdin package with like Gastons and Brooms, it's kind of slowed down quite a lot. But I think if you're playing 2 Elsas, you really need to like establish like a really good board really early on and just win quite quickly. We're seeing 4/4 Mickeys, which is quite good. I think it's quite heavy, but yeah, definitely more of a tempo based Ruby Amethyst. But I like it. There's not much crazy things you can do with Ruby Amethyst. But yeah, that's the list. Third place, we have Ruby Amethyst again. Very similar to the second place list. They probably, are testing partners or in the same testing group. This one runs a much lower item count, however. We're seeing 1 Magic Mirror, 1 Cauldron. Seeing a discussion with Cauldron quite a lot, if people like it and people don't. I think it's honestly just personal preference, because while it doesn't really do much in the way that you're not getting anything out of it, it's just making your deck so much more consistent, which is why I think you can get away with playing like these small counts. Like we're seeing 2 Elsas again with 0 Ursulas, the Shift Aladdin, stuff like that. Like you can just kind of find what you need a lot more consistently. Some people don't like it. I personally haven't really played much Ruby Amethyst, so I'm not too sure. But yeah, so this is very similar to the second place list, more tempo based again, low item count, 2 Elsas, not really much to say, 6 1-drops I guess you could say, no befuddles, but yeah, this is Ruby Amethyst. And then fourth place, what shock, we have Ruby Amethyst again. This one is way more early game heavy. This one actually has some stuff to talk about. So we are seeing 6 1-drops with 3 Olaf and 3 Archimedes. We're seeing the heavy Broom package, 4 Rafikis as well, which I think is really good. The Aladdin shift again. We're seeing this time 2 Ursulas, 4 Elsas, which I really like 4 Elsas. It really takes over the game if you can get them going. As soon as you just start looping them together, it's just over from that point. As soon as you can start doing that, you just win the game like 90% of the time. 4 Queens again. Very early game heavy. We're seeing 4 LeFous. And then no shields. So maybe the LeFou, this person prefers, readying for the Aladdin and stuff like that. It's also quite good with the Rafiki because you can like hit into a Simba, LeFou, and then hit into like Lilo, and you can kill them both, which is pretty good. We're seeing with the item count, obviously no shield because we got the 4 LeFous like I've just mentioned. But we see 2 magic mirrors, which I like 2 of, definitely. 2 pocket watches, which, it's fine, it's inkable, which I think is the main issue with these items a lot of the time. And then 4 cauldrons. 4 cauldrons is crazy. I'm assuming they're never really playing 4, but even if you play 2, you can essentially look at like the top 3 and just like choose a card that you like from there. So, yeah, I think 4 cauldrons is a bit overkill, but, obviously worked out well for this person, so couldn't have been too bad. 5th place, we're seeing Amber Sapphire. It's about time that this deck got a good placement in a 1K, because this list is great. I really, really like Amber Sapphire. It's so consistent. It does what it wants to do every single time. It wins very smoothly. It's a very smooth deck to play. You have lots of card draw. That also builds like your board state, so you can like play Rapunzel, like Surfer Stitch. This one's using Rockstar Stitch as well, which is quite interesting because there's not that many 1-drops. Obviously you have the ramp of the Mickey. Again, we're seeing no 1-jump ahead. I think that card's just a bit slow. Because with Grammar, if you don't want to play it, you can just ink it, and it's essentially just an ink, right? We've got the Be Our Guest, the Eye of the Fates as well, which is really important. The Auroras is really good, Maximus, and the 4 Hades to like loop and just add stuff back is really important. Overall, I'm a massive fan of like Amber Sapphire. I really, really like it. It's just super, like, I don't know if easy is the word, but it's very simple. It kind of like, it makes sense when you play it. Yeah, you just want to ramp, keep tempo, and finish fast with like the removal of Hades and Let It Go. Really, really solid list. One of my personal favorites. So I'm really happy that this is finally getting some good placements. So next up we have Amber Steel. This is a more control focused style. So we saw the Denver 1K. We saw the Rockstar Stitch with like the 4 Lilos and the 2 Goons and just like a load of 1-drops. And you just create this like really, really wide board. And then obviously when that deck becomes popular, people are going to start playing the mirror matches. And then when you play the mirror matches, that board kind of dies to Grab Your Sword, so then you naturally go like, okay, so how can I survive Grab Your Sword but still have the same game plan? So then you start playing cards like Cerberus, which people have found out is really, really good. And then people are like, okay, if we're going to do that, we don't really need Rockstar Stitch. We can just play more of like a control style, because now I'm suddenly losing to a Ruby Amethyst, so I need to destroy the mirrors, so you're playing Beast. But then you're like, oh, but now if I'm doing this, then I can heal with Rapunzel for card draw, so I don't need Whole New World. So you're just cutting all this stuff, and now you've basically got a whole new deck. We're seeing Have You Forgotten Me is You Have Forgotten Me, sorry. Make your opponent discard 2 cards is fantastic. In the aggro matchup where they're relying on their top deck, if you can get this off, discard both of their cards, they're in top deck mode for the rest of the game. And granted, they might top deck something really good, but that's just card games. But yeah, you can really take over the game from there. Really solid list. Turn 1 Hook into turn 2 Eric, into turn 3 Tink, into turn 4 Shift Tink, into like a Grab Your Sword is devastating, and you should have the board state from that. We're also seeing 4 Hakuna Matas. I think it's just extra hit of Ariel, because at worst, Ariel's like a draw 1 that you can ink, right? But yeah, really, really solid. Yeah, just play big units, and you can heal them with Rapunzel to draw cards, and then you can trade very effectively, and go into like Rockstar Stitch, and all your stuff is very healthy. Really good. You have a good matchup against basically everything with this list. I really like it. In 7th place, we've got the more traditional Amber Steel, the aggro-focused build with all the 1-drops. You control the board early, and then you can find the right time to pop off with Rockstar Stitch. So against these deck lists like Amethyst Emerald, for example, you kind of just want to get into your Giant Fairy Tinks, sing Grab Your Swords, and then they won't have an answer if you pop off of Rockstar Stitch, so you can just do that whenever the time feels right. But in these more, against like Ruby Amethyst, for example, in my personal aggro list for this, I play Beast just as a 2-of to get rid of the magic mirrors. But yeah, you just will make a huge board, make them have Be Prepared, and then just do it again because you have a whole hand. So that's fine. No Rapunzels as well. It's definitely not needed in this style of deck since you have the card draw from the Rockstar and a Whole New World anyway. And all of your units don't really have enough health for you to be healing free off of them, really. So I think that's the reason for the no Rapunzels. But it's definitely not needed in this style of deck. Overall, again, this is a deck that I've been playing to my like locals and things like that. Really like it. It does really well into a lot of the meta. I'd say kind of the main thing that this list struggles with would probably be the Ruby Amethyst, just because if you don't manage to like have a really solid start, you just run the risk of not being able to like win the card advantage basically, and then when you use Whole New World, they'll just have all their answers, and you kind of just lose from there. But maybe I just need to learn that matchup a bit. Maybe I just need to learn that to match up a bit better. But yeah, really like this list too. I kind of like a mix of the 6th place and the 7th place list, kind of mix them together is kind of where I'm heading with this list. But yeah, 8th place, we've got Ruby Amethyst again. This is a 64 card list. Heavy item count again. We're seeing 1 Shield, 2 Magic Mirror, 2 Cauldron, 2 Pocket Watch. Yeah, I think items are like the key of this deck, really. The reason you add the extra cards is so you can make your bad matchups a lot better. So that means like you have the evasives, you have like the 4/4 Aladdins, you have the Elsas just for aggro. We're seeing some Mickeys as well, 2 Befuddles. Nothing we've not seen before though with Ruby Amethyst. We see no Rafikis, instead they're playing Zeus. People think Zeus might be a bit better just because you can have that extra attack and you can survive a bit longer, and you can also quest for 2. So if you want to play more tempo based, you can quest for 2, while the Rafiki's only questing for 1, and they're both uninkable, so there's not really anything to be lost from there. The only real concern I have with Zeus over Rafiki is that if you go first and the opponent plays Simba, you can't just go for a turn 3 Rafiki. But it is what it is. You do still have Gastons on turn 2, so maybe that's fine as well. Yeah, like I say, 64 card Ruby Amethyst, nothing we've not seen before, nothing too crazy, very reliable list, does well into the meta, probably a top tier deck. Definitely a top tier deck. But other than that, that's been the top 8 lists for the Atlanta 1.5k. I know there's a 2k coming up next week, which I'll be covering. Like I say, we've got lots of deck guides to cover. I've been kind of lacking on the deck guides, but I should be going straight onto them, trying to just make them a bit better, a bit more entertaining, a bit more like editing, but not too much editing, stuff like that. Anyway, that's not important. I'll see you in the next one. Comment your favorite deck list. Mine is probably the Amber Sapphire one personally. I just really like the deck. But yeah, let me know which ones you guys really like, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Really, really appreciate the support. Almost at 3k subs, so thanks again for that. And yep, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.